Now, before we begin on this one, I want to reiterate that this is a scoop that I heard from a third party. I have no way of verifying it, no way of validating it. But if it's true, it's relative big news. And that, of course, is Rian Johnson is out at Lucasfilm. Now, this news, I have a feeling, will be everywhere tomorrow. People will be talking about it. I heard of it from Lords of the Long Box, which is a smaller YouTube collective, a YouTube channel that deals in a lot of scoops, a lot of insider information. And they've got spies everywhere. And I think at this point, we could all kind of pretty much look at the idea of Rian Johnson in Star Wars and go, look, it's been 2 years since they announced his trilogy. He's been dancing around it a lot more lately. The firing of D.B. Weiss and David Benioff kind of put, I should say, cast some doubt on whether or not he was in or out, because it kind of felt like, he was the other person at that Star Wars summit, so he would have been there, and his trilogy would have been probably pitched. And I'm sure at this point it's probably written, because he went hard at work on that thing right after The Last Jedi came out. But we've heard nothing from it. Bob Iger has said nothing about it. Kathleen Kennedy has, I think, mentioned his name publicly 2 or 3 times in the subsequent 2 years following The Last Jedi, at least when we're in regards to like the future of the Star Wars franchise. So what they said in their report, and I'm paraphrasing it here, is that Johnson's out, but they haven't said anything about it. And there's reasons for that. And the reasons are, for one, they're doing a soft reboot, roughly, of Star Wars after the Skywalker saga ends with the Rise of Skywalker. They want to do a soft reboot, and that makes sense. And that might be one of the reasons why the rumor was for Dan and Dave that they were going to be working on the Old Republic. They were going to be working on the origins of the Jedi, which is so far removed from the Skywalker saga. Like, you can't get any more far removed from the Skywalker saga than the origin of the Jedi. So that's an interesting concept. So that's one of the angles of it, right? That they're doing a soft reboot, and Rian Johnson's proposed trilogy takes place apparently immediately after the events of Episode 9. Now, that could have been one of the things we were hearing about for a while in regards to Daisy Ridley talking about the future of Rey. She says her contract is over with this movie, but then there was some talk about Rey coming back in, right? About Rey coming in down the road. And if Johnson wanted to tell that story, that could have been where he was planning on taking things. So I don't know. I don't know necessarily if this is going to be the reality. But again, what they also went on to say was that they don't want, at this point, there to be, and by they, I mean like Bob Iger, Kathy Kennedy, J.J. Abrams, they don't want there to be any whiff of Rian Johnson in Star Wars for the next couple months, because they don't want to have that stank, that cloud, that dumpster fire hanging overhead of not only the Rise of Skywalker, but more importantly, and this is true, more importantly, the Mandalorian. Say what you will about the Rise of Skywalker, right? The movie is going to probably pull in 1.5 to $2 billion worldwide. It's going to be enough of a crowd pleaser to make that kind of cash. Do you really think they want The Last Jedi anywhere near that? Do you think they want people on the internet getting all up in arms over The Last Jedi while leading into that? By going, oh, we're going to be doing the Rian Johnson trilogy? People online would lose their mind over it. They would lose their shit. They would just be so upset. They'd be like, oh, Disney Star Wars is dead. I mean, that already gets said most times anyway when people talk about Disney Star Wars on YouTube. But that's what I'm hearing, is they don't want it anywhere near it. And when you look at the Mandalorian, that to me makes the most amount of sense, because critics of The Last Jedi and fans of The Last Jedi can kind of agree on one thing. The Mandalorian looks badass, and people are truly excited for it. Legitimately, really, honestly, mega excited for it. So if they're able to keep Rian Johnson far and far and far away from that, no mention of it, because keep in mind, he's doing a press tour for Knives Out. And so everyone's going to be asking him the Star Wars question, right? And he likes to troll, because we all know it gets him off. And he likes to troll a little bit, and he likes to be a little bit of a jerk about it. And that's going to keep the negativity of The Last Jedi permeating around The Rise of Skywalker. So it's possible that they're just going to tell him like, hey man, like STFU, you know, or like just do it. Just be quiet. Don't say anything. And then after the release of The Rise of Skywalker, then they'll make the announcement potentially that he's, you know, they're moving on. They're doing a soft reboot. They picked out who it's going to be, and it's not going to be Rian Johnson. That's what I'm hearing, and I added a little bit of my own speculation on that end. But basically, it's just they don't have any confidence in him. They don't want the stank of The Last Jedi anywhere near Mandalorian or Rise of Skywalker, and he's out. He's done. Finito. Hopefully, this comes true. Hopefully, the inside sources that Lords of the Long Box have at Lucas are true on this one. But if you think about it, Rian Johnson is absolutely he is such a bad luck for Star Wars, right? I'm just going to bring this quote up here. Roman numeral says he's a bad juju, which I absolutely positively agree with. He is a bad juju. Rian Johnson is not the person you want anywhere near Star Wars. And we know that. Bob Iger, we knows that, because Bob Iger has not mentioned him, has not said anything about it. And if the rumors are true, where he is now taking more of an oversight control of Lucasfilm, where he is now, you know, Kathleen Kennedy has basically run everything by him. The inclusion of Kevin Feige in the mix only solidifies that rumor, because you know, even though they say like, oh, you know, Feige's still going to report to Alan Horn, he's not going to report to Kathleen Kennedy, he's going to go right to Bob Iger, Alan Horn, all those guys. No, he's not going to Alan Horn, he's going to go right to Bob Iger. I mean, that means it completely undercuts Kathleen Kennedy. And so, yeah, they signed her a year ago to 2021. Bob Iger's contract expires in 2021. And I have a feeling that Kathleen Kennedy is not going to renew hers either. Both her and Iger will step down. Some other people will take over. And then 2022, Star Wars gets rebooted theatrically. But in the meantime, apparently we're going to get a whole bunch of badass TV shows that are going to be nowhere near, with any luck, as divisive as The Last Jedi, which, you know, is good, because that movie was so bad. This video is supported by patrons like you. If you'd like to become a patron, please head over to patreon.com/Matt Jarbo.